Hi everyone. Welcome to our live session today. So my name is Long from Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. So while waiting for more people to join us on our live session today, let me shout out that we're going to have a series of live seminar talks from today and tomorrow on various topics of postgraduate, which actually touching on different fields such as finance, AI, data science, MBA program. So you are also welcome to visit us in our campus during these 2 days of open day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So for more information, feel free to actually visit our website www.apu.edu.my and follow our Facebook page. All right. So if you're looking for professional education beyond undergraduate study, whether to broaden your knowledge, enhance your career growth, opportunity, or to venture into research contribution, the APU Postgraduate Program will be able to cater to your needs. So especially during this time of a pandemic, COVID-19 outbreak, don't let this actually stop you. Explore your opportunity after the COVID-19 and discover all pathways that are available to enhance yourself. I personally believe that every crisis happen definitely will create a new opportunity. So today, we're actually very proud to have Dr. James Turner, our head of School of Business, to presenting to you on Industrial 4.0 and future graduates. So, okay, hi, welcome, Dr. Jason.
Very much. Thanks for that warm welcome, and good afternoon, everyone. As we just discussed, I'm going to go through a few slides with you, but it's more of a kind of a conversation, and I hope that you've got questions because it's an important time in everyone's life. We're all looking to future-proof ourselves. And tomorrow, I'm going to do a session on our MBA. I think every university, their flagship program is the MBA and how we've changed the MBA to reflect the market needs. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about graduate employability. As I said, about future-proofing yourself. And as we said in the introduction, there's a lot of discussion and debate about what are the skills that are needed for the future graduate, and how what's the marketplace going to be like in the months and years to come. No one's sure, but there are certain things that we can do, and that is to future-proof ourselves, which is to speak to industry, to look at trends, to speak to alumni, speak to people in education. So they sometimes call it the quadruple helix, which is speaking to governments, speaking to professional bodies, speaking to employees, students, and speaking to employers to get that broad perspective. So that's what we're going to do today. Identify the sort of the key skill set that you're going to need. And then you can go away and think about, well, what master's program or what further education initiative should I embark on in order to future-proof myself. So this will be the contents. We are going to look at, so it's not boring, we're talking about industrial revolutions. What I'm trying to do is to show that we've been here before. We're now entering the fifth industrial revolution. Some people still say we're in the fourth. There's a lot of debate about what industrial revolution we are in, but we're in one, and we have been through other industrial revolutions before, and we came through them. So we're going to talk a little bit about previous impact and what is likely to happen in the future. Then we'll look at the skills gap. So you yourself can then say, these are the skills that employers are looking for. This is based on current research and trends. Do I have these skills? Or which skills do I need to develop? Which ones do I need to enhance? And then we'll look at what we've done in APU. So I would imagine a lot of universities have tried to adapt to the market, or they should have. And what we've done is we're in a very fortunate position, being a technology institution, so one of the leading providers in Asia for technology education. So we have infused technology and business together to get the best of both worlds. But it's more than that. We've had to adapt a lot more to the marketplace and had to include a lot of different added value features and elements just to reflect what's happened in the market. So all universities, and I think APU in particular, has adapted particularly well to the pandemic. They've done a lot of market research to find out what are the future skills, not only now, but 5 years into the future, because everyone talks about future proofing, but what does it actually mean? And that's trying to predict what skills are going to be required. Now, you may say, but Jason's not a fortune teller. That's true. But we can look at past trends and then work out or forecast what is likely the skills that are required based on evidence. This isn't just based on guesswork and me. This is based on hard evidence and research. So, as I said, this is not the first industrial revolution that we have gone through. You know, if you go way back, first, second, third industrial revolutions, you had the invention of the steam engine, and you went through to more automation, and you had the advent of the computer. May seem many, many years ago, but the trends remain. They disrupted society. They caused unemployment. They caused panic amongst employees going, am I going to be obsolete? Am I going to be replaced by, and we go back to many, many years ago, whereas I work in manufacturing, in the textile industry. Will I be replaced by the loom, which was an automated machine? So some people lost their jobs. And then the banking revolution, where we had more online banking. Will I be replaced? I'm simply working in a bank, distributing money. Will my job become obsolete? So that's why today we focus on the skill set, because not everything can be automated. We do need to have humans. There is a demand for certain types of employees. So that's what we focus on. And I think that will reassure everyone in the audience to say, okay, I do have the right skill set, or I have the pathway to develop the right skill set. So, as I mentioned, the fourth industrial revolution, which arguably we are still in, is looking at innovations and technologies to do the jobs that we do better, more efficiently, enhance our productivity. So we use tools. So you'll probably notice when you use Outlook, you'll have some form of personal advisor. Do you want to send the email now? Do you want to send a delayed? You know, things that are helping you. What's going to be on your schedule today? So it's allowing us to be more effective in our jobs so that we can focus on the creative and the problem solving. The fifth industrial revolution is this closer relationship, not replacement, working together, man and machine, to make the overall performance of an organization better. But this is where there's debate. The McKinsey report saying lots of people are going to be made unemployed. You've heard, news headlines which say mass unemployment, rise of the machines, etc. And it concerns people because you're thinking about, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to look after my family? Am I going to have to travel? What about my job? What about my career growth? And I think what it's underlined this pandemic is the need to constantly reinvent yourself. Now, you may say, well, okay, I'll talk to you about the reinvention, but there are trends here. Music, people reinvent themselves to have longevity. So you've got David Bowie, who's no longer with us, the Rolling Stones, bands that have been around for a long, long time, but have had to constantly reinvent themselves to keep themselves contemporary and relevant, because music industry has changed, films have changed. So in order to keep yourselves relevant in the marketplace, you must look at your particular skill set and say, are they relevant, or do I have to adapt, change my particular portfolio? So there's precedent here. It's not just looking at employees, it's not just looking at people. Society has changed. So all these different elements, football clubs, sporting, you have to get with the latest technology. You have to look at the best training methods in order to make yourselves competitive. Either that or Real Madrid would still be the best football team in the world. Sorry if any of you support Real Madrid and think you're the best team in the world. But in that sense, you have to constantly reflect on yourselves. And I think companies have done it, universities have done it. All businesses and individuals must reflect on themselves to say, is my skill set still relevant now? So as I said, it's an example that everyone is going through. So if you don't believe me and say, okay, I've never heard of the Rolling Stones, I've never heard of David Bowie, I always put this heading. So I've delivered sessions, keynotes. I was just in a panel session the other week talking with other organizations, other institutions here within Malaysia. And this is exactly what we talked about. And I always like to introduce this by showing you this newspaper headline, which is talking about unemployment, increased industrial output, labor-saving devices. It's going to create kind of mass unemployment, fear. And you've got pictures there of the unemployment line. Now, when we look at the headline, it's from February 26th, 1928. That's what I'm saying. We've been here before. So with the advent of technology. So what the difference now is that if you were made unemployed in 1928, you maybe went into not necessarily a more secure job, or you had to reskill yourself perhaps, retrain. So similar aspects, but you maybe had less choices, particularly if you were like a coal miner or something like that, and you had to move into another industry. You had a certain set of skills. You had to reskill yourself, which could take time, could take, investment money. So similar now, but now if you look at the choices, you could go part-time. The gig economy is particularly strong. You could sell products online. You can look and go, well, okay, I could develop my marketing skills and go into that field. I could work for myself. I become entrepreneurial. So I think the choices are before, maybe you were limited to get another job, as in work for someone else. But I think now people have more confidence to say, I could work for myself. The gig economy is strong. And I think that's where I've said you've been here before, but now I think there is an increasing likelihood that more people might do part-time. So they might have 2 or 3 part-time jobs or work for themselves. And so they're more in control of their working life. People maybe are looking more at quality of life rather than working long hours perhaps. So there are now a little bit more choices. And that's why, I'll talk a little bit about this later, that universities are saying, well, we now have to give you choices. I'll mention a little bit later, and I'll talk more about it tomorrow, about micro-credentials. Students saying, well, I quite want to do accelerated programs. I want to maybe do a couple of modules in this area, a couple of modules in another area, because I want to focus on perhaps selling my own products online. So it's interesting, there's a lot of research in terms of age and gender, and even older people are now looking at the gig economy as a means of income, but also balancing their work and life. The other area that I'll touch upon is these technology pillars. Now, I've included them simply because you will notice that a lot of these programs are offered here at APU. You know, we're looking at robotics. You know, we have that. Engineering, augmented reality. We have our own augmented reality lab and virtual reality. We have the vertical and horizontal integration by saying it's not just business, it's technology infused business. It's not just technology, it's technology underpinned by business. We have degrees in industrial internet of the Internet of Things. We have cybersecurity. We have cybersecurity labs here. We have cloud computing qualifications. The manufacturing comes in with the supply chain. In business and in engineering, we have big data analytics qualifications. So if you look at future proofing, and this is what they're saying about Industry 4.0 and moving in to Industry 5.0, these are the key areas. That's what the research tells us. We've covered all these bases, but I would like to emphasize that horizontal and vertical integration because it links to you, your skill set, to say, I'm a marketer. That's what's changed in the marketplace. You're a marketer plus. You have to be more than that. So it's like if you are, like say for example, I'm not only a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. You've got multiple roles. You've probably heard people saying, when I go home, I've got multiple hats. You know, I'll spend time with my child, help them with their schoolwork. I'll then go and prepare dinner. So I'm a chef, cook, and you've got multiple roles, and it's the same in employment now. And it's the same with degrees. That's why we have this vertical and horizontal integration. It's no longer enough to say it's a business degree. You know, we have business with specialisms. You know, we have an MBA with, you know, digital leadership. So it has to be combined, project management with the digital component, cybersecurity, as I said, with that underpinning business knowledge. So you yourselves have got to say, well, am I diverse enough? Do I have these particular skills? Should I go and get more knowledge into certain areas? You know, I watch how my company is developing. Should I start to have more awareness of cybersecurity? Should I start to get involved in the Internet of Things? These are the questions that I think maybe we all have to ask ourselves. Now, I can only give our own examples of staff here. We delivered classes online. We had good online resources, but then we went completely online. So, and you have to raise the bar. That is key. You constantly have to raise the bar to grow as an individual. You can't stand still. So once you get to a level and say, hey, I could teach online. You know, I've got materials online. You got to get better. So you've got to look and say, how do I make it more engaging? How do I embed more quizzes? How do I embed more, I don't know, more engaging activities, more fun in terms of the learning experience? How do I get better? How do I enhance my skill set? We all have to do it. It's just working out which skills you have to develop and how do you develop them? What is right for you? So, what I'm going to talk now about is to say that, as I said, we've been here before, but something that was said in the introduction, and this is a common theme in anything that I've written, I usually use this as my main argument, which is automation, the pandemic, the disruptive economy, the gig economy. will create jobs and displace jobs in equal measure. Okay? So there will be unemployment, but there will also be job creation. You've just got to make sure that you're on the side of the job creation and not on the job obsolete aspects. So this is the key things that we're going to look at today, which is if your job is easy to imitate, if it is monotonous, if it is based in terms of repetitive work, which could be automatable, then it's maybe time to look at your skill set. Or if you're trying to future-proof yourself, say, maybe I need to add to my existing skill set just to make sure that I'm kind of future-proofed for the next 3-5 years, so I can look after my kids, you know, I can look after my parents as they get a little bit older, etc. So there will be displacement, but this is not all the fear factor of McKinsey saying there will be millions of people unemployed. There'll be no such thing as truck drivers. It will all be autonomous driving. There'll be no such thing as delivery drivers. They'll be all delivered by drones. That's quite fearful. We are certainly not anywhere near that yet. But they'll need people to build the drones. They'll need people to design the drones. They'll need people to program them. They'll then need the business idea and the marketing idea to sell it. So the commercialization aspect. So people will have to reskill and adapt to the environment. I go back to the textile industry. We've been here before, just we probably have more choices. You know, as I said before, you've now got universities such as APU now saying, we'll give you that, we'll help you. So you don't have to necessarily help yourself, because the universities are tailoring programs away from the traditional to something that is going to help you make that transition into the employment market. So I think it's easier now than it once was. Because universities have, well, like APU have and are constantly changing. So, skills. This is where we're here. What skills do you need and why? Now, my job as a researcher is to look at all these skills, to look at all the previous research and pull together what are the key skills that we need to future-proof ourselves as an employee, and if you're at university as a graduate. So don't take my word for it. Take the advice of a lot of research. And what they're saying is more about the softer skills, the emotional side, creativity, social aspects, and ones that are difficult to computerize and automate. Now, this should make sense to you, because think about it, working from home. It's been difficult to manage people. It's been difficult to communicate if you've got your camera off. We don't know how engaged you are. You know, you could be sitting there in your pajamas, you know, eating your cereal, hopefully not at this time. But maybe it's Saturday, so maybe you are. We don't know how involved you are. So from that perspective, we're saying, well, it needs more creativity and more empathy to sympathize with the working from home environment, where people have got a lot of challenges at home. We've got issues of mental health. We've got issues of stress. They don't see the boundaries between working from home and their home life. It's just blurring into one big headache of working 80 hours a week. So how do we get around that? That's what employers are looking for. Also, employers are looking for, how are we going to motivate the new generation, the millennials? We hear a lot of talk about that, who are coming in with different expectations into the workplace. I want to work in Starbucks. You know, I don't want to come into the traditional workplace. We are going to need creativity and some softer skills to bed staff into a working environment, and balancing working from home and working in the physical space. So there's a lot of challenges. That has to be embedded into programs of study so that you can better prepare yourself in industry so that you can get promoted. You know, I think that's a key question to say, how can a master's qualification or how can going back to university get me promoted? Because you're able to say, well, I've learned all these skills that you, my employer, needs to bring in better business, to enhance your performance. So these are the skills that are embedded into the modules. This is from a university point of view. You don't necessarily have to have modules in that. This is something, see, when you're looking at programs, I'm going to talk about programs tomorrow, but I think it's important to mention it now. When you're looking and making decisions on master's programs, I think it's key to say, always ask the question, okay, you've got these modules, but what about creative intelligence? What about social intelligence? These questions, they are underpinning themes in all the modules. Now, it could be in digital marketing, it could be in data science, but underpinning should be these aspects, because otherwise you're just going to get knowledge, not necessarily learning. These skills are really important, because otherwise you just get a master's qualification. I said you, me, everyone needs to be enhanced. So you have to have job qualities. It's the same with the master's qualifications. It has to be more than that. I think one of our slogans is it's more than a degree. It has to be. If you're wanting to prepare yourself, you have to have a set of skills and a master's. You know, we have dual partnerships. It's more than that. We have professional accreditation. I'm going to talk more about it tomorrow, but it has to be more than that. And it's the same with this. It has to be, these additional skills have to be bedded in. So you have to ask these questions to say, well, how am I going to develop these skills on this program? If they can't answer you, don't go, because you're spending money on something that isn't giving you that extra value. So this is really important in terms of the social intelligence, I would argue. The ability to reflect on yourselves, because that's what we're constantly doing during a pandemic. We're reflecting and saying, well, what's going to happen now? Looking at past trends. What could I have done differently? Should we have brought out the vaccine earlier? Should we have gone from AstraZeneca? Should we have gone for the Pfizer? You're constantly second guessing yourself and reflecting so that you're making more informed decisions. So the market has changed. Master's qualifications gets you to reflect on yourself. There's standard employment questions. You know, what would you have done differently? Could you give me a scenario where you've done something and learned from? It's all about reflection. That is another thing that has to be underpinning your master's qualifications. So this is a collective. I found quite a nice source. You know, I've got the source here in Wiki Jobs, but based on the World Economic Forum, World Bank data, employment research, these are pretty much the skills that you need to do. Now, this is 2021 and a bit influenced by the pandemic. So one thing that the employers have noticed, I mentioned to you about the quadruple helix, which is, these are all based upon what alumni is saying, what we're getting information from the education sector, employers, professional bodies, and government-led research. So here's the things. Leadership. You have to be a leader. And you can imagine, if you're going to be a good leader, you have to be decisive and you have to communicate with people, which is made more difficult in a pandemic. That's why on the MBA we launched digital leadership, okay? Because people are thinking, well, how do we lead? How do we transition in a digital environment? You've got to take responsibility. Teamwork, you can't do it alone. You are so much going on that you have to work well as a team, which means, again, you have to be able to communicate. I'm saying to you all these different skills. You have to be flexible. You have to manage your time. You have to be able to work under pressure. You have to be, as I said, decisive, which means that you have to resolve conflicts. You have to motivate yourself. These are not necessarily new. Most of you should sit there and go, yeah, okay, yeah, I would imagine, yeah, as well as some creativity, critical thinking, being innovative, adaptable. You know, the pandemic has made us all a little bit more flexible, perhaps, self-motivated, coming out with problem solving. But how do we develop these skills? I think that's the key. Now, that's one thing. This is like, it's like a seesaw, if you like. Okay, these are the skills. Okay, thanks, Jason, right? You've identified maybe things I already know, but how am I going to develop that? How is, like, going back to university going to help me develop these skills? And that's the question that we should ask. Because it's all very well saying, okay, I could upskill myself, I can get a master's, but which master's is right for me? Which ones complements my career? These skills are across all the masters, okay? So they don't necessarily have a specific module in them, but they're underpinning, so it's reinforcing the learning. So you're working as a team, you're working under pressure, you have to motivate yourselves, you will lead and be led. Your communication skills, because we operate hybrid, face-to-face and in a virtual environment. We give you confrontational situations so that you can resolve conflict. You have to take ownership for your learning. You take responsibility. Then you put it into practice. We give you real-life situations. I'm just giving you insight into my next few slides. Sorry about that. But that's what I'm saying. It has to be applied. We can't just simply say, or we should not say, here's the skills. Okay, well, how is joining a master's going to help me develop those skills? And that's what I'm going to do in the next 10 minutes or so before I answer some questions. But it's important to identify what are the skills. And that's what employers are looking for. Research, maybe you're thinking, well, my employer, I don't think they will be looking for these skills. And this is all based upon research. Some or most or all of these skills, and they are hard to find. So I go back to the employability record of APU. And there's a reason why we have a good employability record. Based on the Tracer study back before the pandemic, it was 100%. So in that sense, we must be doing something right, and it's embedding those skills into master's programs that are preparing you for the future market, giving you those learning skills, but also those kind of life or soft skills which underpin the knowledge. That's why I say knowledge and learning. These are two things that you need in a degree. The knowledge comes from the modules, but the learning is these underpinning themes, these top soft skills that you need in addition, because it's more than simply knowledge of a degree. So what have we done? We have looked at a number of ways to enhance the quality of our graduates and made them work ready. That's what I'm saying about the knowledge and the learning. So we flip the classroom. We put the onus and the responsibility on master students in some way. You lead the conversation. You take ownership. We give a number of problem-based scenarios from our challenge to think about complexity. You're thinking there about problem solving, creativity. In modules related to business, you've also got to think about the social and societal aspects, internal to the business and external. And you get judged by industry practitioners. So a number of our staff are industry experienced, but we also bring in industry speakers, industry panels, to evaluate your abilities to deal with those scenarios. And there are a variety of scenarios which gets you out of your comfort zone. Oh, I work in the computing industry. We give you scenarios in HR. Oh, but because it gets you to think in a different mindset. So it makes you more of a rounded employee. You know, I was introduced, I'm head of the Graduate School of Business. I'm also the head of the business school. Right, I'm involved in a number of external and internal projects. I'm a researcher. I have to wear multiple hats. I'm going back to that. So we have to give you that exposure so that you can deal with those experiences, so that you are a rounded employee and someone that will get promotion, someone that will earn more money, someone that is highly valued within an organization because you are adaptable, can think on your feet, but think outside the box in different scenarios. That is someone that's adaptable is an asset rather than someone that's what we would call, you know, I'm from the UK, a one-trick pony. I can only do this scenario. That's it. Good, you know, that's good. But in this environment, you have to broaden your portfolio just a little bit. And that's what we do in our programs. So these embedding the employability skills, we have disrupted the learning space. If you are on campus, so some people are here on campus today, they'll notice Block A, which is our postgraduate block. You will be surprised at the learning environment. It is not the traditional type of learning environment where we sit in rows. It's different. We have movable spaces so that it gets you more creative. We have social spaces. We don't have to have a lecture and a tutorial in a traditional way. You know, we have different ways to teach people. You know, I do things such as coffee and papers, which is an experiential learning approach, which says, you know, we give people the opportunity to debate topics. So it improves your communication skills, it enhances your knowledge base, and also learning from other people's experiences. It's no longer the traditional educational experience that you might have had. Marketplace has changed, people have changed, learning has to change. So we have more self-reflection. So I've just written an assessment on critical self-reflection, where people have got to cite an experience in their work and what they would have done differently. And they have to learn upon that. And it's structured in a very short 1,000-word assignment. So they write concisely and they think broadly about their approach. We have micro-credentials, which is bite-sized kind of modules, which gives you that exposure to things outside your discipline. So if you're doing big data, but you say, I would really like to know a little bit more about leadership, you go and do a micro-credential in leadership. So it gives you that enhanced knowledge. So when you go back to the workplace, and you're able to say, I got more than a degree. I keep saying that, but I've also got industry certification. So they also say it's good. So the government says it's good because of our employability record. We get endorsement from industry. Our alumni say it's good. You as the student hopefully says it's good. So it's good then by definition, because more people, the quadruple helix, more people are bought into this, and they're all giving its endorsement. It's not just we say it's good, it's a range of people. So the other thing is, I said, we've got augmented reality labs, virtual reality labs. We're building an entrepreneurial center. We are disrupting the way that we teach, the way that the spaces, and also the modules and the programs to reflect the market. You can't stand still, and nor can you, and nor can I. In order to make ourselves more employable and to enhance our skill set, we have to constantly change and adapt. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just the modules, it's the programs, the learning space, and the people teaching and the people being taught. It's interesting times. So this is my last couple of slides before we have any questions. So these things, just to summarize what we do here at APU, is this collaborative decision making. Risks are encouraged because they might not be encouraged in the industry environment, which makes you risk averse, particularly as you get older, because you think more about the consequences. So it's here, you're in a supportive environment, make mistakes, so that you learn from that. It makes you a little bit more creative, a bit more innovative, a little more less restricted when you're problem solving, which makes you a better manager, makes you a better employee. But you do it in this environment where it's safer. In the business world, if you make a mistake and it costs $1 million, then you might not have a job. So you become less risk, which means that you're less wide thinking about problem solving and creative solutions. Here is where you do it. Place students in situations and environment where you've got to solve problems, constant real life scenarios. What would you do in this scenario? Looking back, this is in degree level, let alone masters. I'm giving my first years Deepwater Horizon. What would you have done differently? You're the manager, right? What control system would you have put in place? So what would you have done? So, your sort of concurrent controls, what would you have done differently? You're working in a Starbucks scenario. How do you motivate your staff, right, during this pandemic? How do you keep them engaged? How do you bring passion into the workplace? These are questions that I'm giving first years, right? Let alone what I'm doing in master's level. It challenges your thinking. It gets you out of your comfort zone. So you really then go into the workplace a lot more confident to deal with any number of scenarios. I've said about technology infused, business underpinned. It has to be cross-disciplinary. The days of I just do business and I just do computing are over. It's choice. It's supported with micro-credentials. It's supported with these certification because business is no longer like that. I mentioned the gig economy where people are doing multiple things. Degrees have got to be all things to all people in a lot of ways. We have to give you a sense of responsibility, self-worth, confidence that you can take risks, etc. Kind of reinventing yourselves as employees and develop your emotional intelligence. I think we develop that quite a lot over in the UK. We do that, the empathy and the understanding, so that we can relate to our employees. Now, as I said, if you don't believe me, that is a list of just some of the postgraduate programs that we have. And there we go. It's no longer finance. It's finance with fintech. It's no longer looking at this, just looking at international business communications. It's a Master of Science, not just a master's. It's a Master of Science. We're combining the science, the technology part with the business communications. You know, we have cybersecurity. I mentioned the 9 pillars. There's business-related modules there because you have to understand business in order to look at the threats to the organization by cyber hacking, etc. So if you look there, you know, there's accounting. It's no longer accounting. It's accounting and forensic analysis, money laundering. You know, we're dealing with Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, which is maybe more likely for criminal activity, etc. So all of that is coming into play. And I mentioned to you about the quadruple helix, which is saying we need to be endorsed by external people. It's not just enough for us to say it's good. And there we go. APU, best cybersecurity education provider in Asia, gold winner. And need I say more? Now, you don't get that just offering things that are not going to future-proof the graduates. So, and when you look at this, in 2 years, they might be different again, these programs, because we have to innovate. We change the modules, we change the content, we change the way that we teach, we change the programs, so that when you graduate, you're future-proofing yourself for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's just an example. You know, these are all designed to help you, and we've got a range of PhDs. We have online PhDs. We have a DBA, which is going through accreditation at the moment. We have a range of top masters and research masters, because people are different. So we've got to try and fit with your working life and make it relevant for you. So a lot of choice for you, simply because we're looking at this employability and making sure that we give you enough choice to make you as employable as possible and to complement a diverse range of potential students or graduates. So I've talked far too much. That's the Brit in me, that we keep talking and talking. So I will stop just now and hand over to my colleague for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Jason. So thank you for sharing. So and now is our Q&A session. So everyone, please feel free to drop your question at our comment area. Now, actually, we have quite a number of questions have been asked. All right, maybe the first one from Mr. Baba. So based on the experience, do industrial practitioners need a PhD? As PhD is academically inclined, how can it help us who are in the corporate world?
Okay, good question. I think it's the choice, what is right for you. So I'm glad that you asked that. PhD is relevant, whether it's a DBA, a Doctor of Business Administration, which gives you modules as well as a project, or the PhD, which is purely just around a project. I would say yes, because as you have gone through this transition, a lot of organizations may say, how can we prepare for the next pandemic, the next disruption? We might want to look at our organization and look at the market research of that. We can canvass our employees and we make it a project. That's a PhD. So it could be, how well did we do with working from home policy? How well did we make staff feel engaged? So an HR related project, a digital transformation project. Should we look to invest in different training? So that's what we're getting a lot of students now who are coming in from industry that are looking at our PhD and saying, I want to reflect and do a project on our HR, our digital transformation, so that then we can write this project up in 2 or 3 years' time so that we are better prepared for the next event. So I think very much so that it's not just for you as an individual, as a leader, it's actually going to be relevant for your organization so that you're better prepared for the next disruptive thing, which is guaranteed to happen. You know, that we've gone through a pandemic, we will go through something else in the future. So I think it is very relevant. But We are also looking to launch our DBA, which gives another alternative to those practitioners that say, I maybe want that qualification, the doctorate, so I'm going to choose to do the modules and a project, or just simply project. So very much relevant, yes.
All right. So hope, Mr. Babak, you actually have got your answer. So maybe we move to the next questions. Ms. Furo, what are the skills actually are required to need for future employment, and how will a master at APU provide this skill?
Okay, good question. What I try to do is identify those particular skills that employers need. We called it the sort of 10 soft skills. And how we've done it with the masters is that engagement with real life scenarios. Now, some people say, well, that's an obvious one. Yes, we've looked at gamification of the curriculum. We've embedded that in. We've given them that exposure to industry, but it's giving them scenarios which are out with their comfort zone. So it's no longer enough to simply say, well, if you're in the supply chain industry, we'll just give you examples in the supply chain. We look at across the business. I did an orientation a few days ago, and on the stage were heads of school from business, finance, computing, technology, design. And our vice chancellor said, this is a business. We need all these skills, and we need to know what each one does. That's why we give you those situations and scenarios which make you more all-round, which makes you better prepared for the employment market, because employers are greedy, right? They want, it's a pandemic, money is tight. So they look and go, okay, here's Farouk. What our skill set? She's a marketer, digital marketer. How's your social media skills? How adaptable are you to like kind of transform, digital transformation? Are you quite knowledgeable in that? What about augmented reality? They're wanting a super employee, right? They're looking for someone that could do 4 or 5 different things. And that's what we try to do. We give you that sort of insight. We have these micro-credentials running in parallel with your studies. We run all these workshops, Google-led, the workshops led by our colleagues here, by certified trainers, which you get that insight into additional pieces of knowledge. So you go to an employer and say, yeah, I've got my degree, but I'll tell you what else I've got. I've got all these other pockets of learning and knowledge, which they go, you could do all these things? Here, think of the money I could save. I don't have to employ 3 people. I could just employ Farouk here, pay her more. So that's the other thing. You've got to think about yourself. You don't want to be overstressed and go, what are you saying, Jason? Are you saying that you're going to give us the skills so we could do 3 people's jobs and only get paid for 1? No, you become a desirable asset because you're showing what you can do. And also, it's not 3 jobs. You're showing how you understand and can mix things together. That's what I'm saying. It's understanding the connectivity. That's the key. So that's what we try and do. Give you these scenarios and give you opportunities to enhance your knowledge, so you become a better learner.
Yep. All right. So in other words, we actually can increase our salary, after we complete the master.
No, yes, yes, you can. You're in a better position to negotiate.
All right. Okay.
In case you come back to me and say, "Hey, whoa."
All right. So from Ms. Ibiwani, obviously, Industrial 4.0 helped to increase graduate employability. In your opinion, do you think the success of Industrial 4.0 also depends on infrastructure for teaching and learning, not alone academic delivery?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Infrastructure is so important, particularly when you're looking at the connectivity of learner to an individual who is delivering. So, we've invested significantly. I think being a technology university has certainly helped with that. And when we look here at this wonderful space in Block A about the learning space, which takes people out of that traditional zone. I think is particularly valuable. I think everyone's gone through this where they're working from home, which is a different physical environment. How they've coped. The infrastructure or the Wi-Fi isn't very good. That's disrupted the learning. It's not conducive to appropriate learning. So you're absolutely right. Infrastructure, you can't just simply change a module here. You can't just implement a new module. You can't just simply bring in a new academic member of staff. It's the whole process, and a multi-million-pound project of building an infrastructure in space is vital during a pandemic as well. I think it's more holistic what we've done here at APU, I would say, because they haven't just said, let's change a couple of modules. They've changed modules, programs, and a learning space and infrastructure. So yeah, it makes people want to come to the physical environment, but also because the infrastructure of technology has made it adaptable for those people that can't come onto the physical environment. So you're right, because it does disrupt the learning experience if the infrastructure isn't there. You're absolutely right. It's, as I say, it's more than a degree. You're absolutely right. It's more than just simply infrastructure. It's more than simply delivery. It's a whole combination of things that have to run in parallel.
All right. So thank you. So maybe we'll take in the last questions because the time almost done now. Okay. Do you think that your postgraduate record accurately reflect your effort and ability?
Okay, good question. Do you think your postgraduate record? It's more than just simply just that postgraduate transcript. That's what I think. I think you're right. That is an indication of how well you performed in assessments. The employers are looking for more than that. They are looking for, how do you measure a soft skill if you haven't done that in a module? If there's no module on soft skill, how, that's what I'm saying. Does that reflect your effort and ability? No. So that's why it's up to the people that do a master's qualification here. We help, because we've got our careers advisor, wonderful people that help you sell that in your own CV to say, hey, it's not just about my transcript. I got 3.8 GPA. I got more than that. What I got is I developed these skills. I engaged with this. I got this certification. So this organization has endorsed my qualification. They say that I have followed that path. I am a particular, I've developed this skill in terms of management. So I would argue that it's no longer enough to have that, just that transcript. The transcript says, yes, you performed well in modules, but it's also to show in your CV to say, I engaged with this organization as part of my qualification. I engaged in this competition. I also did this additional webinar. I engaged in this micro-credential, etc. That then shows that is more holistic of your efforts and ability, I would say. That's why I'm saying it's more than a degree, because if people look at your degree and say, that's it, just your transcript, you could go to anyone, any university under the sun. You could even go to a university no one's heard of. But that's what I'm saying. It has to be more than that, because employers are going, okay, you and 300 other people, what else have you done? And that's where you show your efforts and ability. Yeah, I'm good academic. I got 3.8, okay, or 4, right, 3.5. But I also did all these other things, which really emphasize all the effort that you put in. So that's what I'm saying. That's why you have to engage in all these things. That's why I'm saying that there has to be more than just simply the modules that you do, the underpinning skills. And we help you as well to sell that in your CV, because you might be thinking, well, how do I do that in my CV? That's what we do. We help you with that. So you don't just simply say, I got a master's at APU. That's it. You have to add in more in terms of your 2, 3, whatever page CV. So a postgraduate record academically does not necessarily reflect all your hard work and everything that you've done. You've got to tell the employer all these additional things that you did.
Yep, totally agree. Like even I myself, I just started my MBA in APU now. I just had my first module, and they actually have broadened out my way of thinking, also planning the strategy, not just only for me to getting a master holder, but it eventually actually helped me a lot on my marketing skills, my strategy thinking. Yep. All right. So maybe thank you, Dr. Jason, for sharing with us. So I think we're going to end our session now. So we're going to have a next session talking about Master of Finance FinTech at 4 p.m. later. Stay tuned and do remember to follow our Facebook page for more updates. So again, APU is having open day today and tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please feel free to drop by to meet our academic teams and counselor. So thank you, Dr. Jason, and thank you everyone for joining us at this live session. All right,
Thank you.
thank you
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone. Take care.